suck it up, to endure something painful, unpleasant, or otherwise dissatisfactory, to deal with or recover from some hardship or stress. Suck it up, endure something painful.
What's up? Welcome to the Suck It Up Man podcast. This is episode 11. It's been a little bit since we've been live. I've been out of the country for a while, but happy to be back chatting with you. How you been, Josh?
Oh, I've been doing really well. I am in the process of flipping these houses, which has been quite they've been slow going, but you know, when you're doing things the right way, you need to make sure that they're done right, and sometimes it takes a little extra time. So I'm in the process of doing that, which has been taking up a lot of my time, unfortunately.
Nice. Yeah, and I know you wanted to talk about a situation where you had just posted. So this was a house you were originally going to sell, right? And then the appraisal came in lower, and you decided to rent out the rooms, right?
Yeah, so here's what happened was I put it on the market. I got an accepted offer. Yeah, the appraisal came in about $25,000 less, and I just said my net return on that would be about 120,000 after selling it. And one of the challenges with that is when I looked at that, I said, well, what's the best way I can make some money on this if I don't want to sell it? Because that's 25-30 grand less than I expected to have in my pocket so I could buy a house down south. I could either rent out the whole damn thing for about $2,200 a month to a family of 4, for example, or a family of 5 that want a very large house. It's probably the fair market value is about 2,200, or I could rent it out per room between 600 and 700 a month, netting myself about 3,800 a month, and you know, transition it for something like that. And so I posted that, and by the way, the difference in profit versus liability in that is quite substantial. You know, one, you have a potential profit of 20 grand a year when you're renting it out at 2,200 a month, but your liability is about $10,000, because if somebody ends up getting a divorce or your tenant ends up splitting or whatever the case may be, you have the potential of putting $10,000 back into the house, where if you're renting it per room, your profit could be around $40,000 and your liability is probably between $3,000 and $4,000, meaning you're net profiting a whole lot more compared to your liability. And so I posted that for rent, and it in our community, I guess it pissed off a lot of people. It has like over 300, 400 comments, and people are losing their shit over it. And they're about 75% of the comments are negative, and then the other 25% are people who are sticking up for me, saying, hey, you know, Josh is offering people an option versus being homeless. Or I also have people who are working professionals like traveling nurses, windmill techs, people who are up here for, say, about 3 months. They usually have like a 3-month contract, and say they don't need, you know, a whole house to rent for 1,800 a month. So I end up saving those people $1,200 a month. So I do have a good amount of people who are like, hey, Josh is providing affordable housing. What the hell are you guys complaining about? But the majority of the people are like, oh, you're just trying to make a buck off of people, which, first of all, yeah, I have every right to make a buck off of it. But guess what? If my net profit on this thing with the appraised value would be 120,000, or I can turn around and I can make 40 grand a year off of it. Holy fuck, I can make my net profit in 3 years simply by waiting, and I'm filling a need in the community. That's what I'm going to do. So
yeah, I agree. I think you're providing an opportunity for people. I know if I look at my past, when I was trying to move out of my house, because my first job was in New York, and I essentially had 100-mile drive one way. And I just said after a couple months, I can't do this anymore. If I want to really succeed with this company, I got to live closer. So I was looking for apartments in New York, not necessarily the city. I worked about 30 minutes north of the city, but everything was like $1,200 to $1,500 at this point, and I just couldn't afford that. So I went on Craigslist and I ended up finding a sublet, which I didn't necessarily want, but that was really the only thing that I can afford. I just rented one room. It was upstairs. It was a couple. They were both teachers, so they weren't really there a lot of the times, but I rented a room and they said, hey, there's, you know, a bathroom, a shared bathroom, and there's the kitchen downstairs. They were like, make yourself at home. I didn't really feel super comfortable because it's really their house that I'm just renting a room with, but it was what I wanted to, you know, it got me to move closer and provided me an opportunity, as you mentioned.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing is I've also had, here's another thing is I've had a few people that are my age who are Gen Xers in their mid 40s, and they've looked at it and they said, I think I want this for my 20-year-old, or I want this for my 21-year-old because I like my own privacy. They can have their own privacy. And damn it, when I was their age, sometimes I had roommates that I had to live with, and that's part of growing up. So, you know, in a way, when I started hearing parents like myself who are Gen Xers trying to teach some of the, you know, Zoomers some of life's lessons about there's some value in learning things the hard way or being on your own or even having roommates and having to get along with other people. I just felt like I was giving the even more service to the community, if you will. So I started furnishing the place because my brother-in-law, I ended up buying a bunch of furniture from him, or I was supposed to hold on to it for him, but I ended up buying it all. So I started moving it over there. So that way I realized that it's going to be needed to be furnished, you know, for the most part. So,
Nice. So as I mentioned previously, I just got back from an Asian trip, and you're actually going to Asia in what, about 3-4 weeks?
yes, I'm heading out over to Japan for 4 or 5 days. My wife did a student transition when she was in her teenage years over there. What are they called? Not a transition student, but when they go to a foreign country. And
Foreign exchange student.
Foreign exchange student. There we go. So she went over there, and the person that took her in is going to be picking us up and hosting us for a few days. And then we were spending 2 weeks in Bali on a photographer's tour with a bunch of supermodels and a bunch of amazing photographers. And I'm really looking forward to that, as well as Japan, because it's my first time being in Asia. And yeah, I mean, I know some people might say I'm greedy, but damn it, if I can't rent out my house for a higher profit, sometimes I just can't afford my trips to Asia. And people might hate me for saying that, but I owe it to my wife. I owe it to myself. I don't owe it to the people in the chat that it pisses off. And that's just the way the world works, people. I don't know what else to tell you. You know, and I am a nice guy. You know that, Wayne. I take my shirt off my back to help people, you know. I don't have to defend that, you know, raising money for hospice and shit like that. I know I'm a good person. But yeah, some of that, if you can't make a little extra buck off of people, you can't donate 13 or raise $13,000 for hospice and, you know, take homeless vets off the street and shit. And I've done all that too. So that's why I don't mind being who I am.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago that you're never going to please everyone with your decisions. So better just to do the best you can. Some people are going to like it, some people won't. But yeah, I'm excited for you to go to Asia. It's funny because you're going to Asia in 3-4 weeks, and then my wife's best friend is going to Asia in like 2 weeks. So it's like a bunch of people like all kind of missed each other by a little bit of time. But I didn't go to Japan, but I've heard really good things. I did go to Bali, and if you guys need a driver, I definitely have someone I can hook you up with because it's just easier than having like. So there was a couple days where we were kind of on the southern part of Bali, and there was a couple days where we wanted to go to a bunch of different attractions in the northern part, and as opposed to having to wait for a taxi to take you here, and then you got to wait for another taxi to take you here, we just decided to talk to a guy that ended up picking us up from the airport, and my brother-in-law was sitting in the front seat, and he ended up chatting with the guy. He didn't really speak great English, but nowadays with iPhones or, you know, any kind of smartphone, you can use your Translate app and you're okay. So we ended up just getting this guy's number and basically just agreed to a fee for the whole day. So really cool guy. I said doesn't speak great English, but he can take you guys from place to place if you guys need.
Now, did you guys end up buying a SIM card, or I know there's this new like eSIM app? We don't endorse it. We don't get paid to endorse them. Maybe we should talk to them about that. But I know there's an eSIM app as well as you can buy the eSIM card. Which one did you do?
So I just with my phone plan with Verizon, I essentially just did an international plan. So they have two options if you go through your Verizon. I think it's the same with AT&T and other carriers, where you can either pay per day, which I think it was maybe 10, 11 bucks. And I was going to, we were there for 3 weeks. So that would have cost me like over 200 bucks. Or for the whole month, you get unlimited data. You get a certain amount of 5G data, and then after you use all your 5G data, I learned that you have 3G data because I use that up pretty quickly. But you get unlimited text, and you get some like 250 minutes. So I just did that. It was 100 bucks. But if you don't want to do that,
that's not bad. Yeah,
yeah. Most of the airports you go internationally, the first step you take off the flight, there's going to be someone there with some kind of SIM card. I've never done that. I'm sure that's a way to go. Maybe Matt, who we're going to have on a little bit, he might be able to speak to it a little bit better than me, as he's been living in Thailand for a couple of years. So,
well, and that's one of those things I think I'm just going to let my wife handle. Be like, here you go, honey. You handle the details on all the things. She's really good at spending money anyway. So let her do that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why it's there. You can't take it with you.
Exactly.
And it's perfectly fine earning it in a legal and ethical way, which is what we do. So, unfortunately, for one of the viewers, I cannot donate my hat to you, but we do sell them on Etsy for $400 a pop. So, speaking of traveling abroad, I don't mind the chatter in the live chat. We do see that. And, but speaking of traveling abroad, that is our first guest that we are going to be bringing on, Mr. Collins, aka Pingy. So if we want to bring him on, Bryson. And Matt is joining us today. How are you doing, good sir?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Doing well.
You've spent how long in Thailand for our viewers? And then what? I have a few follow-up questions because I only heard a quick synopsis from it, but how long have you spent in Thailand?
Yeah, so I moved a few days before 9/11 in 2023. I just remember it because of 9/11. Early September 2023, I moved there. I've been there for a couple of years, on and off. I'll do a month or two back in the States, visit people, go back to Thailand. In the process of getting a longer-term visa right now. So,
now, what made you choose Thailand? Like, did you just spin the globe and throw a dart at it, or what?
No, so I first went to Thailand when I was 19. So I played poker. I was pretty into poker back then, in particular, and that was shortly after like the Black Friday stuff. So Thailand was like a big spot with like the 2+2 forums, like had a good community of poker. So when I was young coming up, I was like, oh, I want to travel somewhere and live somewhere and play poker. So when I was 19, I just had a backpack and loaded up my laptop and bought a one-way ticket to Thailand, spent a month there.
What did your parents say to you when you said, hey, I'm 19 years old and I got all my life in my backpack and I'm going to Thailand?
My parents, they're pretty hesitant, but like I'm not asking them for money. So they're like, you're not asking us for money, go for it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? They were always worried. I remember when I was in Hungary during that time, there was like a terrorist attack in Turkey, which is not even like close, not the same country, anything. My mom like messaged me and says, are you okay? Are you safe? So like, she's very worried at that time, but I don't know. I've just always kind of lived life of like, send it, just go for it. What's the worst that could realistically happen? And most of the time it's not anything that's not manageable to overcome. So
now where did this sense of adventure come from? Because obviously your story is not there is definitely a lot of digital nomads out there, but I was really excited when I got to meet you because I've heard about digital nomads and for probably years now, but you were the first person I met. But I would say you're definitely in the minority with being so young and just saying, you know what, I'm packing my bags, I'm moving abroad. So where did this come from? Was it from like a young age that did you just say, hey, like the US doesn't feel like it's for me, or maybe there's just better things out there, or where did this come from?
Yeah, so I moved around a lot growing up. My dad worked for FedEx and kind of like would work his way up and get promoted every 2 or 3 years. So we traveled around quite a bit growing up until I was about 7th or 8th grade, and then we settled down in Michigan. So I've kind of always been used to, after a couple of years, getting the itch to like, let's go do something new. And yeah, I guess I'm kind of, I wouldn't consider myself radical, but I guess I am more, I don't necessarily see the future. I'm big on like front loading life. I don't want to put off enjoying life or experiencing things for the hope of in 40 years when I retire, like maybe if I don't die or I'm not sick or I didn't give my money to my kids or stock market didn't go bust, all these things that like could happen to try to enjoy life then. I don't have kids, so I just.
Did your parents raise you that way to be, hey, take life by the horns and take chances, like make bad decisions, they make good stories, or drive fast, take lots of chances, shit like that?
I don't think so. My parents aren't big risk takers, so I don't know.
So it's your secret way of rebelling and saying, fuck it, let's just go.
Yeah, I just like to. Maybe it's ego too, just kind of like doing something different because I feel like I can figure it out. Like, I don't know. It's just going the traditional path seemed always kind of boring to me, or like it's always going to be there. So might as well try to do something. And traveling is kind of like, or the digital nomad's kind of a cheat code because you're not really doing anything of meaning, but it's kind of like something that you can tell people about. That like you accomplish something. But it's really just like buying a one-way ticket to Thailand for like $600 and then renting it. Like it's not anything super exciting or worthy of admiration.
Well, you were saying to me earlier that you had to leave every 90 days and then come back, and now they're combating that. So now you're doing a 5-year visa process. Is that correct?
Yeah. So when I went in 2023, I did a year-long education visa. So I paid for that and took like Thai class. But then after that was up, I just decided you do a tourist visa for 60 days and then extend for another 30 days. And then you just fly to Vietnam, or I went to China, or they have border runs to Laos. So they'll just pick you up in the morning, drive you across the border, you'll turn right back around, they'll drive you back. So there's a lot of that, but they're cracking down a little bit on it. And I have my passport's pretty full now, so they'll look through and see how many times you've done it. So yeah, I found there's visa agents in Thailand that you can they help facilitate visas. Maybe if you don't qualify for them exactly.
Do you have to bribe them or anything like that?
So you pay the visa agent for their fee, and they have certain connections to certain people in immigration, and they deal with the paperwork, and so. You can call them bribe.
You legally bribe them, yeah. You tip them.
You can call it facilitating, yeah. You tip them, basically, yeah.
How much does it usually cost to speed up the process? I'm curious.
So this 5-year visa is, I think only like $2,500, $2,600 US.
Okay.
So there's a lot of money there. But an education visa is like $800-900 for a year, but then you have to like renew while you're in the country every 30 days or every 90 days. So I always paid the school because they're supposed to like quiz you and stuff at immigration to make sure you're learning Thai. But you can pay the school like $60, and they go and they wait in line for you. They do everything, and you just go. They take a picture.
Don't tell me you've lived in Thailand for a long time and you don't know any Thai. You have to know Thai.
I speak very little. You get around with English pretty well, but I speak some. Yeah. I'm not fluent. I'm not fluent. No.
How long have you lived in Thailand for?
Like 2 years, but Josh, you have to go. You have to go to Thailand. You can get around fine with English. You really don't run into too many issues,
Well, no,
especially in
I know.
Shanghai.
I lived in Italy for 4 years at one point when I was growing up, but I mean, I did start learning Italian and a decent amount of it to understand it.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, a
of
little
course,
bit.
this was many years ago, so I mean, I understand that there's a lot of difference, and nowadays you can order half the shit you want online, and you don't even have to communicate with the world in any other language.
That is very true. Yeah, food
Have
delivered
you
right to your
tested
door.
out? You know, they have those new AI glasses that you can wear and they give you a display. You can actually put on them, translate everything you hear on the display, and then you can tell it you want to say it to somebody else, and it'll tell you on the display how to say it. Isn't that crazy?
I've heard about those. Are pretty cheap too. I think they're only like 250, $300. So yeah, technology's crazy.
Somebody wants to super chat a question for the Nomad. How are the lady boys if you've ever tried them? I know he might be trolling or he might not be trolling, but is that something you run into in Thailand? I am genuinely curious because that just sounds,
There are,
I don't know.
yeah. I mean, it gets that reputation for a reason. There are quite a bit of ladyboys.
Dude,
I
I've
have
heard
not
some
partook,
crazy poker
but
stories in my time about lady boys and people being ripped off and all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, what are you doing?
oh
I
yeah,
don't even dare repeat them. I've never been to Thailand, but yeah. So the lady boys are pretty prevalent in Thailand.
yeah, and it's you can pretty much tell when you're sober, but when in 2, 3 o'clock in the morning rolls around, you've had quite a night. Then it gets dangerous because you don't really know sometimes.
So why do you think I was actually having this chat with my barber the other day where I said that sometimes certain countries just become known for things, right? So going to and from Asia, we had a layover in Istanbul, Turkey, and anytime you go to Turkey, I'm sure you've probably seen it. You see guys, mostly women too, but you see guys with like it looks like their head is on fire. They went, because Turkey is super famous for the hair follicle treatment. And that's just something they've kind of become known for. And obviously Thailand, among other things, has kind of become known amongst other things as kind of the ladyboy capital. And I'm wondering, like, what's your opinion? I heard some things when I was there. I mean, talking to some people, I think it's part of it is the religion of Buddhism is obviously the major religion there, and they seem to be very open as far, obviously there's certain religions that aren't as accepting of transgenders, but Buddhism seems to be one. Is that something that you think contributes to that at all?
Yeah, I would think so. Just the culture, yeah, and Buddhism. I think they're the first country or one of the first countries in Southeast Asia to allow like same-sex marriage, and they've just always been very open and comfortable with, I'm going to be who I want to be. There's no judgment. So yeah, I think it just comes down to the people and accepting it. But yeah, it is interesting that there's such a high number of them. I'd be curious to see how the numbers compare to other countries if Thailand just gets the rap just from like the reputation of it. But yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, I just imagine it's from the people being so kind of nice and comfortable with themselves. So.
Yeah. The people there seemed very accepting. We were in Bangkok for like 4 or 5 days before we ended up coming up to Chiang Mai and seeing you for a little bit. But we didn't really have any negative situations. All the Thai people seem to be pretty accepting. Is that kind of the same thing you've seen from being there for a couple of years? Or are they pretty accepting of you being an American living there?
Yeah, so you're never going to be Thai, so you're always going to be a foreigner. But they're not. You're not always going to be like an ATM where they're going to view you badly or associate you with all their tourists. So they can view you as like a person, and a local, especially if you like my neighborhood. I know a lot of the people who work at the little stands or sell eggs. We'll give them a smile, say hi, all that time. So yeah, and I was there during the flood. So there's bad floods about a year ago, and the Thai people, the Thai neighbors. I have a 65-year-old South African lady who's my neighbor. And she didn't want to walk. The whole road was flooded. Bottom level of our house was flooded. So she couldn't get food. But there was all the Thai neighbors would come. They would do runs to 7-Eleven that was still open, wade through like waist high floodwater, and get food and bring it back to her and make sure she got food as well. And she's not Thai. She didn't really even talk to them before the flood. So they're very friendly and just like smiling and joking, even when we were fine because we were renting. I was renting, my neighbor was renting. But there's people who lost everything. And Thai government didn't give them, there's no insurance. Like they literally lost everything. But they're still smiling and would give you the little food that they have. So the Thai people are very nice, very kind.
Well, and I imagine if the major religion is Buddhism, Buddhism preaches about, or practices peace more than anything. Like that's one of their things is their devout Buddhists will end up sweeping the sidewalk in front of them to make sure they don't step on any bugs to accidentally kill them. So I studied the Buddhism religion quite a bit, particularly during my divorce, but I have a ton of respect for it because it promotes peace more than anything, which is definitely something we need in this world a lot more. So yeah, the generosity and community of that would be awesome. That makes me want to go visit Thailand. So
I would recommend it.
And the cost of living there is really cheap there too, isn't it? Like, what do you pay for rent?
Yeah, so I have. No, yeah, you're good. I have a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, a little bit outside of Chiang Mai, and I pay 18,000 baht, which is, I think, with the conversion rate, about 540, 550 US. But you can get like 1-bedroom apartments for about 200 US. If you go a little further out of town, it can be cheaper. So, but you get a meal, like their version of like DoorDash, Grab. You get a meal delivered to your door for about 100 baht, which is like $3. So it's cheap. And tipping culture
that could get somebody spoiled real quick.
Yeah. So yeah, it's nice. It is pretty cheap. And yeah, it's a good place to live. I like it. So.
Yeah, so about $540 US. That seems really reasonable to be in Thailand.
Yeah, and that's a bigger house. So if you wanted like a nice condo, you could get a condo with all the amenities in like Bangkok for maybe even a little less than that, or like a really big, nice condo for about the same price. So.
And the weather is generally, it's tropical. It's warm weather all year round, or do you guys have a cold season?
Yeah, well, the cold season's about like 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So maybe like in the morning it gets like 60 in the north. I don't know about the south too much. But yeah, no, we have rainy season. We have hot season. And then we have like the busy season for tourists, which is about now, like the cold season.
Makes sense.
And then in Chiang Mai we have the smoky season as well, where all the farmers up in like Myanmar and stuff will burn their fields, and it gets really smoky for like 2-3 months out of the year. So those are the seasons, but no winter, no fall, none of that. So
wow, yeah, no, I look to travel during the winter all the time. Like we're going down to Nashville, Tennessee, my wife and I, for photographers conference, and then we're going to Miami for poker, and then I talked about going to the Cayman Islands with my brother after that. See if I don't rent that house out for more money, Wayne. I just can't go to all these fancy places.
Exactly.
I want my steak and my lobster. I don't want to eat no fucking hamburger. Sorry, but yeah, no, that's yeah, that seems great. I think we might have to make a stop in Thailand while we're over in Bali and Japan. So, because that's what my wife and I decided to give each other for Christmas and Thanksgiving is Bali and Japan trip. Which have you been? What other places in Asia, since you've lived in Thailand for 2 years, you have island hopped to a couple different places, I'm guessing?
So I've been to most places in actual Thailand, because Thailand is like a big country. So it's like the north where I live, and then the islands down south. So I've been to there. I've been to China. I spent a week in China. Saw a wedding there. I went to a wedding there. I've been to Vietnam. Spent some time in Hong Kong. I've been to.
What would you say to any of our listeners and viewers as far as traveling abroad? What would you say are the 3 things that you like most about it? Living abroad.
Living abroad. I like just meeting new people. Like it just gets you out of the comfort zone. I feel like people in the U.S. they're in their own little bubble, their own little world. They go to the same handful of chain restaurants and meet the same people. Just forcing yourself to experience new things and get out of your comfort zone of not knowing what everyone's saying all the time. Like there could be, you're in Bangkok, there's 5 different languages spoken when you're walking down the street. And you just like, you're okay with it. You smile, wave. You don't have to read every menu right away. You can try new foods. Like, I don't know. I just experience, the world's a big place. There's a lot more to experience than, some suburb of some town in the U.S., which is the exact same as every other suburb. And I come back and I can go to whether it's St. Louis or Detroit or Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but you're not going to have Emo's Pizza in Chicago. But you're right. St. Louis has their own specific pizza style, which is Emo's, and Chicago, of course, has its own pizza style. Deep dish, Chicago. Same thing with Detroit. You're right. Every big city kind of has basically the same things, just in a little different manner. Like you talk to somebody from New York, they're going to be like, it's New York pizza. Forget about it. Right? That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah. But yeah, so going to different countries, you can kind of change your perspective, or you can meet people or see things that maybe helps you appreciate life more. You see someone really struggling, like poor or the flood, who they lost everything. But they still have a smile on their face. They're still grateful. They still have kids. They still have a family. They still go to temple. Like it helps provide perspective, I think. And, people, I feel like in the U.S., a lot of people are focused on, I'm going to just go to work, make enough money to survive, maybe go to the bar, have a couple beers, and just get through the next day and then do it again. I think a lot of different cultures and countries can provide. If you get out of, there's nothing wrong with, nice resorts, but if you get out of the resorts and go and like interact with people, go to a local market or talk to people, you can, just get some perspective, I think.
There is some value, though, for at least some of us who want to do the same thing over and over again and then, be able to provide for our family, especially with AI breathing down our necks about taking over the world. But I get the other value as well. But I remember having a debate with one of my friends about this, is who is wiser, the guy who's traveled the world or the guy who's worked at the factory for 15 years? After 15 years, you'd presume the guy who's traveled the world is wiser. But then his counter argument, which I will always take to heart, is, but you don't know what it's like to work at a factory for 15 years. And there's some wisdom in that. So yeah, I tell people there's always something you can find very learning base, or very epiphany like, even in the guy that works at a factory for 15 years, because hey, that person's taking care of his family. Maybe that's what he has to do. But it's also nice that you're not necessarily tied down to anything at all. Are you in any relationships right now, or how is dating in Thailand and being a world traveler? How is that?
Yeah, so I'm dating someone right now for the past 4 months or so. It's good. I was telling Wayne when I met him in Thailand, there is a language barrier. She speaks some English, I speak some Thai. But it's a struggle in terms of we spend a lot of time and extra time.
How long have you been dating this lady?
About 4 months.
That's awesome. And you guys speak some of each other's language.
Yeah. So then we do a lot of, for words that we don't know, we'll do like the Google Translate, and then we will say it, like the person will read it, and then I'll say it in like English. So I'll write something in English, show her the Thai translation, say it in English, and then she'll like say it back to try to learn.
Bro, why haven't you started a TikTok short of, this is me and my girlfriend who've been dating for 4 months and we don't speak each other's languages? There are so many funny bits that are going to come from that. You're both going to be at a restaurant, like, especially if she's in the US while you're in the US, or what, it doesn't even matter. You could just look at each other and be like, I don't know, I think there's going to be a lot of comedy in that. You could totally go viral doing this.
Yeah, I don't think I have the personality to be an influencer, but Yeah, no, there's a lot of good
That
moments.
makes it even better, though. You could just give it to her and be like, "Here, you do it from your
She
perspective."
she likes TikTok quite a bit. She wants so she probably would be
Tell
willing
her
to do
that's
something.
my idea. Say, "This is what you have to do. This is what it's like dating my white American boy that doesn't speak hardly any Thai." And I bet you that goes viral. I'm thinking that would go viral. What do you think, Wayne? Am I off my rocker here or what?
I think I think that would go viral because there are a lot of people that are interested in. I think the main reason a lot of these people are looking to move is because of the dating scene. I know we've covered a lot of dating topics in the first 10 episodes we've had where a lot of guys have just kind of given up. There's actually an acronym that's come out. It's called MGTOW, men going their own way, where there's a lot of different reasons, but men have just kind of essentially thrown in the towel for dating. So dating as a American in these Asian countries, specifically Thailand, where you're at, would you say it's easier than dating in the US, or maybe different, or how do you compare it?
Yeah, it's definitely easier for sure. There's a lot of like you got to understand the like economic situation. So you come, and a lot of people come if you're going on vacation in Thailand as an American or an Australian, you have more money than the average Thai person. So obviously, it's just a fact of life. You're going to be more attractive to females, and you're mysterious. You're different. You're a foreigner. Like there's obviously going to be an appeal to them. So in terms of like dating apps and stuff, you will get significantly more attention. Um, but you still
So
need
you're
to
like
weed
the
out.
Australian guy who comes to the United States having the accent where all the women are like,
Yeah, or like the Spanish guy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's you have to if you want something meaningful in a relationship. If you're looking for having fun or whatever, you can get that for sure. But if you want a relationship or something meaningful, then you have to do the work of filtering out. Why do I actually connect with this person? Are they being fake, or what's their motives here? And trying to go. So it depends on your age too. If you're coming as an overweight 60-year-old and you are getting chatted up by a 23-year-old, like you probably know what she's interested in. If you're okay with that, cool. But
experiences. Isn't she interested in experiences? Isn't that what we were
wisdom,
supposed to say?
wisdom. She wants to know what it's like to work at a factory for 15 years. So yeah, exactly.
Just a different kind of factory. Whatever it
Yeah.
takes to pay the bills, baby.
So because of this monetary difference where there's probably this perception of, oh, here's a white guy, he's rich. Is there something or a couple things that you have to do to, I guess, filter out people that are just maybe interested in maybe citizenship or some kind of money or what have you?
Oh, that's a good question. And have you been offered to marry somebody for a green card or something like that? But go on, answer Wayne's question first.
Okay. So yeah, you have to. I try to look for someone who's got a good, stable job at least. Thailand, they work a lot of hours, usually like 50, 60 hours a week. So, yeah, I've dated the first girl I dated in Thailand had a good job, so it was nice. And she, even though she makes very little in comparison, she was still willing to pay for like the occasional, like, oh, nice 30 baht meal at the market. She's willing to pay, do nice things. So just that, like, obviously I paid the vast majority of the time, but I wouldn't feel comfortable if that wasn't the case when I know how much she makes and how hard she works. I think the main issue is when you get like you advance in the relationship. A lot of these girls come to the city from like the farmland, Isan, which is like the big part in eastern Thailand. Very poor, a lot of alcoholism. So when they like bring you back to visit their family, that's when like all the villagers will come and hit you up. You'll be the walking ATM. Oh, my cousin's cow died. He needs a new cow, or oh, my mom's sick. The hospital, she needs a cert. Like whatever story you can think of, it'll come up from the extending family members. So you have to be careful and kind of, or they'll say, oh, it's Thai
How many
tradition.
cows have you purchased here, Matt?
0 cows. 0. Well, for most of the time, one reason I don't speak good Thai yet is for about a year I dated a Chinese girl that I met there. So that's why I didn't have time to practice my Thai as much. So yeah, there's a lot of Chinese people there as well. But yeah,
do you speak Mandarin, or do you just have a fetish where you like dating people who don't speak hardly any English?
No, the Chinese girl was very well. She had she's getting her master's right now in New Zealand. She's very educated, spoke perfect English. She spoke just as good English, just better English than me apparently. But yeah, she was good. But yeah, so there's a wide range of people that you meet there. As for your question, have I ever been offered money for a green card? Not in Thailand, but when I was 19, I was doing some business with a Vietnamese guy, and he tried to get me to one of his friends was trying to get me to marry someone for a green card. I think the going rate then was 30,000, but this was several years ago. American dollars, but it's also I think it's like 4 or 5 years in federal prison.
Oh,
it's like 4 or 5 years in federal prison. It's
that's true.
Yeah, they don't play with that. So, yeah, I passed, but I'm sure a lot of people take it. So.
Is there a certain time?
Go ahead.
No, you're good, Josh. Good.
I was gonna say, especially if you've been living in Thailand for 2 years, because then coming back home with a wife would make sense. Like,
yeah.
So
I don't think a lot of people in Thailand have 30,000 to pay or whatever the going rate is.
Is there a certain time period where if you did get enticed by this 30 grand, like, I don't know what that process is like. I'm sure there's a lot of people that have taken that, and then what kind of checks and balances is there to prove like, okay, you just married for the money? I mean, I don't know what that is. Do you? Yeah, I don't know the details. I just know that they do prosecute it, and it is federal crime, and it is about a couple of years. I know that the Chinese girl that I was dating, she used our relationship to get not a green card, but like a tourist visa but she printed out like hundreds of pictures of us, videos over the course of like a year just to get approved for a tourist visa. So in terms of like marriage, I know that they like interview you separately and ask details and try to trip you up. So if you're coming with someone who doesn't speak English or like doesn't answer the question, knows nothing about you, you have no pictures, you're gonna have a hard time. So
yeah, definitely not worth the risk. I can understand that. No,
but I'm sure a lot of people do. Or if you could just, I mean, if you can meet a nice girl that you like and get 30K, then it's a win-win. But
well, so now what are the 3 things that you don't like about living in Thailand or living in overseas when you could be living in the United States?
I don't like being far away from family. Obviously, it's the downside of that. Your opportunities to make more money is limited there. Like in Thailand in particular, you can't just like if I want to just get a job, like doing anything, you can't. They do a good job of protecting Thai citizens from foreign labor. So you could be like a teacher and make like, $800 a month or something, but there's very limited jobs that you can do. I also don't like, you can't own land in Thailand, which again, I don't like it because it impacts me, but I respect it as a country to protect their citizens.
My brother was talking to me about that as well, because he was looking at getting land either in Thailand or a couple different foreign Asian nations, and he mentioned, in Thailand they don't allow you to own land as a foreigner.
Yeah, you can own a condo, but not physical land. And you could, I think a lot of people do. Well, they get married and they put in their wife's name, which has some risks if that doesn't work out.
Yeah, because if you get divorced, they get everything, correct? That's in Thailand.
She could take loans and from the house without you knowing. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of horror stories from people going over there and being the wrong type of woman. So. But they do that to obviously protect, because the Chinese would come in and just buy up everything. So those were the biggest. Life is pretty much the same for me there that it would be here. I walk more there, but besides that, like it's basically the same with nicer weather. Like technology now, everything is. You get food delivery. You can get their version of Uber. You can. Everything's the same. Go to restaurants. They have nice malls, air conditioning.
Just a lot cheaper.
Yeah, it's modern. People, I think, Americans in particular think that a lot of countries are just mud huts and like nothing besides like maybe Mexico and Western Europe, and then like everything else is just a shithole. Excuse my language, but like they just don't. Yeah, they don't go experience it. But you can live a good life. They have good hospitals, doctors trained in the U.S.
Now I've got 3 questions for you. This is you play. What do you do for work? You play poker online?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I play poker, do some sports betting, but yeah, mainly poker.
Okay. My second question for you: can you see what the people are saying in the live chat? If not, that's okay.
No, I mean.
Okay, what would you say without looking at it? What would you say is the over or under for the amount of trolls, specifically because they know you and they're trolling, like Wilford?
I would say at least 5.
What's the over under is 5? I think he's pretty close. I think we have. I don't know. I think 5 is pretty accurate. I think for that that are just saying troll things in the questions. That's why I keep giggling every once in a while. But Wayne, what other questions do you have for our guests so far?
So is this something that you see yourself doing long term? Like, let's say that the relationship works with your current girlfriend. Hopefully it does. Is it something you see maybe down the road you come to the States, or do you think you'll be pretty much living abroad for the long term?
Ideally, I would like to live abroad for the long term. It's hard for me to imagine when I have like kids. I want kids at some point. The education and kind of the life experience as a kid, I think would probably lean towards the U.S. But who knows what the U.S. would look like in 4 or 5 years. I'm not a big fan of the path it's going, so we'll see. But yeah, it depends on. I don't see myself playing poker in 4 or 5 years, so we'll have to find ways to survive and make an income over there.
Well, and the one nice thing about being over there is you're not going to have AI take over as quickly because it's not going to be so affordable that you would think being right there, even though it's closer to China. It's not going to have, you're not going to have $20,000 robots in people's houses.
Correct. Yeah. My friend describes it as like Thailand, because he loves Thailand too. He came to visit. He's probably one of the trolls in the chat, to be honest. He says Thailand is like the U.S. maybe like 30, 40 years ago, like in terms of how people act and behave and like the gender roles and everything and the price and the affordability of things. So we'll see. Thailand is going that way. And then once Thailand comes too modern, too expensive, whatever, there's always going to be another country. Vietnam is good. It's cheap. So we'll see.
Yeah, especially if you're making your living offline. I think that's great. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is your Thai girlfriend going to be traveling with you? I mean, you guys have only been dating 4 months, but when you are dating a Thai girl, maybe I shouldn't put you on the spot here because she could be watching from over there, but do you intend to date for long term, or do you intend to date more for this is fun for a little bit and until we get tired of each other?
For her in particular, I like her. I don't really like to waste my time a ton on short term. So when I date someone, I think that I can see a future with them, but obviously things you learn, month 5, month 6, a year down the line can change that, or what she wants out of life and what I want out of life differ, and then we go our separate ways. But so I'm at the point, I'm 28, almost 29 now. I'm kind of at the point of dating someone I can at least picture at the beginning to have a future with. Whether that happens or not is, up to fate, up to us involved, but we'll see. So
yeah, either that or end up going your own way. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
So
whatever.
You got to let fate decide it at some point. So
yep, exactly.
Now, We do have a tradition on our podcast where we ask a guest a question. Did you listen to our last podcast? And if you didn't, that's perfectly fine. But if you did, you already know what the question is. Okay, good. So, well, not good that you didn't listen to us, but good that you didn't know what the question was. But the question that we asked our previous guest, or what we do is since you're a guest, you get to ask any question you want of the next guest, not knowing who the next guest is. And you get to answer the question that our previous guest left for you. You follow me?
Yep.
So there's a lot of pressure here. One, I'm going to ask you a question. You can answer it truthfully, honestly, however you want to answer. It's up to you. And then two, you get to ask any question you want, not knowing what topic we're going to cover or any of that nature. So that's
gotcha.
But the question for you is, did you follow your dreams as a kid?
No. The dreams I had as a kid, did I follow them?
Yeah. So what were your dreams as a kid? I say nice, not as in like, oh, I'm celebrating because I'm an asshole. But I mean, there's always a reason, like an internal character building reason why you don't follow your dreams. But maybe this might be the inspirational moment where it changes. Go. Sorry.
I think I did like the reverse of most people. When I was a kid, I was very practical. Thought I was going to be, my dream was go to college, become an actuary, and get married and have a couple of kids. And I did not go that route. And I guess now I'm living the life of, going and living in Thailand and kind of bumming around in different countries. So not living my dream, but I think maybe living some people's or what they think would be their dream. So yeah, no, for some reason I was more practical as a kid than an adult. But.
So as a kid, you were like, I want the white picket fence and the house on the hill with the wife and the kid and the dog, and just eventually where you contemplate your life's choices and things of that nature. And instead you're like, fuck it, let's do it the complete opposite way. Let's just go balls to the wall, do everything. I'm going to live either exciting or as a bum, but I'm going to live however the hell I want, and fuck it, and let's just roll with it. And what would you say to our listeners or viewers, would you say is the thing that you've learned the most about doing the opposite of what you thought you would be doing as a kid, as far as what you'd be dreaming of as a kid? What's your greatest takeaway from that?
My greatest takeaway, I think, is there's so many different paths you can take in life. And for you to think that there's only one path to happiness, or that you can plan your life ahead of time and that you follow this designated path that's going to equal happiness. There's so many miserable people in all walks of life. There's miserable people who have a good, successful job or millionaires and have a couple of kids, but they're still not happy. So I think I learned to kind of go your own path. Whatever you think is going to make you happy, fight for that, and you may fail and then find a different way to be happy in a different path of life. But I think the risk of not trying is greater than the risk of trying and failing. So.
You know what? I love that response, because as I was having a debate with these people who were losing their shit over me charging $600 a room, I said, there's a demand for it, and you lose 100% of the shots you don't take. Eventually, if they don't rent out at $600 a room, I'm going to lower the fucking price, but I'm going to get a good price for it. But I completely agree with you. If you don't take that shot, you're not going to make it. That's bottom line. So what question would you like to leave for our next guest in the next podcast?
I think my question is going to be, what is their definition of success? I think that's a question that I ask myself quite a bit. And I think that's something that people struggle with or define in many different ways. So I'd be curious to hear other people's point of view on that.
I love it. So what is your definition of success, if you don't mind me asking?
That's a good question.
I mean, as you live a nomad life in a foreign country as a beach bum dating a Thai girl that speaks a quarter of your language.
Yeah. I don't know if, success feels fleeting to me. I don't think like I'll ever, even if I'm successful to some people, I don't think I'll ever be successful to myself.
Have you ever done shrooms?
Yeah, when I was younger.
I mean, for spiritual purposes, or you just did shrooms just to have a good time?
I did more like LSD for spiritual, like, contemplate life on LSD, but not as much with shrooms.
Have you ever done a spiritual retreat or anything like that?
No, I've never done the ayahuasca or anything like that. No.
I think it would do you well. How long are you in the States for?
A month, maybe 2. I don't know if I'm staying for Christmas, but
You should. Well, I'm leaving for Japan in November. You should come up here and do a few days with me one-on-one for spiritual retreat stuff, and I can give you a list of stuff that you got to, work on ahead of time, and if you want. But it would probably do you some good.
that sounds like an experience for sure.
It is.
Sounds like an experience. That sounds very interesting. I might have to.
Think on it. I mean, you're going to be here for a month, but I'm only up here until. Well, I mean, I'll be back, obviously, but I'm here until Thanksgiving, and then I fly to Japan and Bali. So, Wayne, and I'll ask you a question, Matt. Do you have any questions for us about what we do, or podcasting, or things of that nature, or? I've known you and chatted with you just very minorly for several years now, but you've never had the opportunity to ask me whatever the hell you want.
I guess for the little bit I know about your story, I'd be curious how you got started in real estate. How old were you, and like what was the situation of buying your first house? I know you have a few rental properties.
Yeah, so absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that. And one of the things I stress to all of my poker students is when you have your first big win, diversify. Whether you're buying crypto, whether you're buying antique watches, antique whatever, paintings, whatever the case may be, diversify some of your winnings. Because if you put all of your eggs in one basket, you end up going bankrupt. And I've been bankrupt. I've had to go look through my couch through loose change to buy ramen. I've had to donate blood the day after Christmas. And now my net worth is probably a little over $1 million. But my first time buying real estate was when I was 21 in South Bend, Indiana, as a student at Notre Dame. And I understood that there is a value in owning a home, and I lost money. I probably lost about 10 grand on that house when I bought it. I ended up putting in a fenced in backyard, a screened in porch. I ended up remodeling a bunch of different things in it. And it was a nice house, but I believe I bought it for like $76,000, and then I sold it for like $85,000. But after the commission and all the work in it, I ended up losing money on it. But that's while I was a student at Notre Dame. And that was my first experience in real estate. And it wasn't until after my bankruptcy in 2009, when I lived in St. Louis, I filed for bankruptcy. I had a house that my mortgage payment went from $544 a month. I talked about this earlier, to $1,600 a month. And I did a fire sale, fucking sold the light fixtures, the toilets, everything. After that, my credit sucked, so you couldn't buy a house for a minimum of 2 years. So I waited on buying a house for 2 years, and then I bought a house in East Marquette on a land contract from my chiropractor, and she said she'd sell it to me for $135,000, and I offered her $30,000 down on a down payment in order to avoid the bank. And I refinanced it. It appraised at like $200,000. I did a bunch of work in that. And then I took what equity I had into that house, and then I started buying rentals with cash. Because when you buy a rental with cash, you get the true value of it. Because when you start factoring in paying interest on it, it becomes a huge headache. Yes, it's tax deductible. This is a discussion I have with my dad. He's very old school. Always have a mortgage payment. It's tax deductible, and I love him. But if I know the house is paid for, I'm getting At one point I was getting, for example, the tenants that moved out of my 4-bedroom. This is for all the people who say, oh, I don't offer affordable housing. When those people moved in 8 years ago, I said, if you pay your rent on time, I will never increase your rent. For $650 for a 4-bedroom. Fucking 4-bedroom right now goes for $1,200 a month. So I rented that undervalue based on my word, because Wayne knows this is a quote I use all the time. There's only 2 things you have in this world, and that's your word and your balls, and I ain't breaking them for no one. Came from Scarface. But
Scarface.
Yes. So, but in any case, yeah, I took that money and invested it, and then every time I had a big poker win, believe it or not, I invested it in real estate. So there was a couple of poker wins that I had that were around $40,000-$50,000, and I ended up buying the house that for 50 grand cash. I like buying things for cash. Like my garage that I built in my house, in front of my house. First of all, my garage is bigger than my fucking house, square footage wise. It took me 2 years to build. But guess what? I didn't go to a fucking bank and get a loan from it. I paid for it with cash. Cash rules in real estate a lot more. And so when you start understanding the value of that, you start understanding you can use your cash to make more money. Like there's a saying, in order to go from $1,000 to $100,000 is a shitload of work, right? Because you have to 100x your money. But to go from $100,000 to $1 million net worth is not that much work, because you start understanding I need my money to make money for me. So that way, when I do have a bad poker trip and I fuck off $12,000, I have $3,600 a month in rent for a house to pay for it. And you know what? I have every fucking right to do that because I worked my balls off. Because you know what? The people who are haters, who got all pissed off about that, if they hadn't donated blood the day after Christmas because they were that fucking broke, then they don't really understand. And this is a discussion Wayne and I had with somebody else. I said, you got to understand my value is worth me. When you understand you're a small business owner, or you're running a business, because that's what's owning real estate is you're basically running a business, or like coaching, when I do poker coaching or life coaching, or when my wife and I do spiritual retreats, our value is our time. And you have to compensate people for their time, but you also have to understand what your value is. So if you own a business and you say, I'm going to give this away for free, or I'm going to give it at a discounted rate, people are going to look at it and say, well, it's discounted, so is it really that valuable? And where if you say, no, this is what it's worth, I'm going to wait until I get what it's worth, you'll end up getting what it's worth, most of the time. And if you can't, you make an adjustment. You go from selling the damn thing to renting it out. I mean, and it sounds horrible, but again, it's one of those things. When I look at it, I was like, well, I can walk away after taxes with the appraised value at 156 for 120 grand. Or if I rent the fucker out, I can make 120 grand in 3 years. And here's another kicker: that 120 grand over 3 years is spaced out over 3 years, so you have less tax implications versus me making 120,000 in 1 year. So you also pay a little less in taxes. And I know some people might say, holy shit, you're just an asshole making money. No, I'm using the tax system and the tax code as best as I can, and doing the best that I can. I'm trying to make the most amount of money that I can for my family, which is my duty and my responsibility as a man. And if you don't like it, suck it up, man. I don't know what to fucking tell
you. Mic drop.
There, I'm off my soapbox now. Sorry. But yeah, I encourage all of my poker students, when you do have a big win. For example, we had Jake on a few episodes ago. I think it was like 4 episodes ago. And I remember he had his first big, like $40,000 or $50,000 month in poker. And he calls me up and he goes, hey man, he goes, I think I'm going to buy this fucking Rolex or the Seamaster Omega. It was a $10,000, $12,000 watch. And I said to him, Jake, if you need that watch to give you a reminder of what it took to earn that watch by grinding every fucking day, by all means get it. I said, but while you're doing that, can you please go invest $20,000 in Bitcoin, crypto, or dirt or something else before? Because then he was talking about getting a, $3,000 Louis Vuitton, man purse and things like that. And then eventually, I think he bought the watch, but he does trips like you do. He's like, screw it. You got to spend time living life versus living on the felt all the time. So. Wayne, what questions do you have for Matt? Or did that help answer your question, Matt, for you?
Yeah, it was nice to hear how you got your start, and I'm good.
And here's the other thing. It doesn't hurt to think outside the box. And what I mean by that is, so one of my duplexes that I have, I was getting, I think, 600 or 800 a month per side on it. And I said, why don't we turn it into an Airbnb? And some months like November and April, I don't get a shit on it, maybe $200. So I lose money on those months with utilities. But yeah, in July and August, I get like $3,000 for them, so it's like you make more money for the same amount of investment. So again, you look at it and you say, if I'm investing X amount of dollars, how can I, weigh out my liability, lower my liability while increasing my profits as much as possible. So it allows me to afford to travel.
That's good. Yeah,
I'm okay with being that asshole. I'm perfectly okay with it. I worked my ass off for it. That's the thing. When people go broke, and when I say broke, I mean broke, you understand it's never going to happen again, and I've had it happen. And it's like, it's not my problem. What is it? Don't mistake my hard work for privilege or your laziness for oppression. Boom. Tied that one in there from Tae Young.
There you go.
Guess. Sorry.
So
Wayne,
final question I have.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Final question I have, Matt, is, so there's probably a lot of people that are going to see this episode that probably are feeling lost and maybe they want to pull the trigger and move abroad. So what would be the maybe one or two piece of advice you would offer them, and maybe something that you made a mistake with, or looking back, like what would you go back and change about your whole process of living abroad?
Yeah. So I guess one of the main pieces of advice I would give is just going abroad isn't going to solve any underlying issues that you have. So if you're an alcoholic, or you're doing a lot of drugs, or you're partying all the time, or you're not good with money, all these things aren't going to magically be solved in a different place. It could get a lot worse in a place that a lot of people vacation and party in. But in terms of, if you're really serious about it, take 6 months, take a year, plan out, make sure you have your passport, maybe go on a week or two for a vacation there, and talk to people, look at housing prices, budget everything out, do as much planning as you can, because planning for the most part is free. Take the time, be obsessive about it, work out all the money. Don't just go and try to think that's going to solve your life. There's going to be challenges there. You're going to have good days, bad days there. You're going to be away from your family. There's pluses and minuses with everything. One mistake that I think that I made was when I got there, it took a few months to really settle into life. Thailand has a way of, when you get there, everything is so cheap compared to the U.S. So you view things in terms of dollars instead of Thai baht in their currency. So you're like, oh, I can go out and I can buy a plane ticket to somewhere down in Thailand. It's $100. Oh, I can go out and drink. I spent $50. That's cheaper than the bar. But then you're doing that, every day. Like, you have normal life. It eventually catches up to you, and you're like, oh, I spent just as much as I would have in the U.S. or more, because I'm just living a crazy lifestyle. So have someone to at least keep you in check. Whether if you can find a good Thai girlfriend or a good local girlfriend, help you keep you in check. Make sure you don't get ripped off. Be wary about partying too much and getting out of line and getting caught up with the tourist lifestyle. It's probably the same thing with people who, like, you live in Vegas compared to just visiting in Vegas. If you're interacting with all the people who are visiting in Vegas, they're blowing money like crazy. But if you live there, that's not sustainable. You have to have a balanced life. So.
I like that. I think that's solid advice.
Yeah, and we definitely did that. When we went to 7-Eleven, we saw how cheap things were, and we came back with like bags full of groceries. Like, holy shit, this is only like 20 baht. That's like 80 cents US. And like we bought so much stuff, but yeah, we were there having fun. But yeah, I could definitely see over like a 2 or 3 month stretch, you just see how ridiculously cheap things are. And then when you actually add it up, you're like, wow, yeah, it's cheap, but I actually spent more than if I was back home, which kind of defeats the purpose of moving out there in the first place. So,
yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Well, we appreciate you being on the pod here, Matt, aka Pingy, and we're gonna wrap it up here in just a few minutes. And yeah, if since you're in the United States for the next month again, I'll invite you up here. I know sometimes you come up here and with Justin and whatnot, and I know it's the UP. Not exactly the best time to be coming up here when it starts getting cold.
Is there snow up there already?
Yeah, no, there is not. We're surprisingly having one of the warmest Novembers ever recorded, or not Novembers, Octobers. It was literally 56 degrees today, and it's normally for all of our listeners out there, it's usually snowing or about to snow. So for it to be like 56, 60 degrees is just unheard of. But I did start wearing my hoodie today. Usually that happens like a month and a half ago, but on a consistent basis because it's too cold. So
yeah, my sister's still up there. My sister and my brother. So it's definitely possible I come up and make a trip.
Yeah, and when you jump into Lake Superior, whether it's in October or November or it's July, it's still
cold
the
no matter what.
response. It's fucking cold, right? So it doesn't really matter when you think about
That's
it that
true.
way. But yeah, keep in touch with me, and if you're coming up here, let me know.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Thanks, man.
All right. Peace.
Take it easy.
Well, that was really good talking to Matt. I like talking to guys who've gone abroad and they're just living their life to the fullest extent. I think that's pretty awesome, especially you're in your 20s. That's the thing to do now is say, fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm really glad that he is a great example of really he's kind of the younger millennial, kind of right on the Gen Z borderline there. But I'm glad that the younger generation is starting to kind of wake up and smell the coffee and not just do the typical, I'm going to get my college degree, I'm going to work 40 years, and then maybe at like 60, 65, I'm going to retire and then potentially go on a vacation. I'm glad that there's more and more people like Matt, where he's saying, you know what, like, I don't think that lifestyle is going to be for me. I want to mix it up and living abroad. And as I mentioned earlier in the episode, he was really the first, digital nomad, passport bro, whatever you want to call those people. But he was really the first one I've met that, told me about his lifestyle, and he's been living there 2 years. And it was really interesting. I mean, I was asking him a bunch of questions, but also the group I was with, my wife, brother-in-law, sister, and her friend, I felt bad because he was getting grilled so hard. They're all asking like, oh, how much is your rent? And then Brianna, my sister, she's in real estate. She's like, oh, how is real estate here? What are prices? And so he was getting grilled hard, but really cool guy. And I definitely recommend to anyone that is considering it. Thailand was really cool. I was in Bangkok for 5 days, which is the big city, and you get kind of the partying and the lady boys. And, if you're into that, that's great. But the place he lives, Chiang Mai, is really cool. I almost say it's kind of like the San Diego to LA, where you get a lot of the same benefits. You get the same weather, but it's not nearly as busy. And it's really catered to the digital nomad. There are so many coffee shops that I went into where you see 2 or 3 different couples that they're just sitting there with their full meal. They got their laptops. They look like they're from Europe, and they get a lot of like Australians. And there was probably people from all over the world that lived there. So really cool place. And definitely reach out to us if you have any questions, and we can help you out.
Now, what did you think about his question? What is your definition of success? I'd like to ask you, Wayne, what do you think is your definition of success?
My definition of success is really living the life that you want and living it the way that you want, right? Where there are so many people that And I was victim to this too, where I know when I graduated high school, I wasn't really a super big believer in college. I'm not saying that college is a bad thing. There are a lot of people. We all need doctors. We all need lawyers, what have you. But
You're saying we don't need philosophers? What? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
now. I'm a philosopher at heart, of course. But go on.
We don't need people getting in $200,000-$300,000 debt and then working a minimum wage job. So I was never really a big believer in college, but I had so much pressure from family members and close friends and guidance counselors at school. I've mentioned this a couple times in previous episodes, where if you told people that you were even considering not going to college, they almost died a little bit inside. Like, what do you mean you're not going to college? You're just going to piss away your life, huh, Wayne? And so I'm glad that the younger generation is really just doing what they want. You know, Matt decided, hey, the US is great. I still have family and friends here, but I want something different. And that takes a lot of balls and a lot of courage at 19 to book a one-way ticket to Europe, or he said he was in Hungary and some other places. I mean, that takes a lot of guts to be able to do that. And I think a lot of people would be much happier if they didn't think about so much what other people wanted and looked in the mirror and said, what do I want? And did that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on that. Definitely. If you're living the life that you want, then that's pretty much your definition of happiness or success. Pardon me. I think happiness and success are kind of tied together. I think.
What is it for you?
I think it's just happiness. I really do, because I think you have to be happy within yourself. And this was something I was struggling a lot in my divorce. Is I was not happy with who I was. I was not happy with the man I had become. I was not happy with any of that. And and I think that's one of those challenging moments as men, that we are so pressured to be successful. Like, this is something I was talking about with my brother who's going through a divorce, is you start acknowledging that you are a failure in something. And for men, that's really hard to do. And when it comes to marriage, especially, like, I was married for 19 years. 19 years is not something you just fucking shake a stick at, you know? And that's not to say that being married for 4 years or 5 years or 10 years has any less value. It certainly does not. But there is some time invested, you know, in 19 years. It's a little bit more time invested in something that's, you know, 4 years or 2 years. You follow me? And so you have to acknowledge that something that you've been working on, for example, for 19 years, you failed at. That's really hard pill to swallow. So, like in my brother's example, you married for 30 years. He has to work on, holy shit, I was married for 30 years and now I've failed at that. So it's hard for men to do that, but you do have to acknowledge that it's not a failure, because marriage is something just like a partnership in a business. It requires two people, you know? And if one person is not, you know, holding their weight, it's more likely to falter. And so it's interesting, because you learn, just like in our business of podcasting, you learn you're better at one thing and I'm better at the other, you know? So I let you handle certain things and you let me handle others. And it's like, it works out.
Yeah.
So so I think my definition of success ultimately is happiness, because I think when you are going through those trials and tribulations of divorce and you understand that, holy shit, I am not a happy person, that you start studying what is happiness. And it's one of those things where, as you know, Wayne, people will never question what the hell was on my thought or what I was thinking. But it's one of those things where I was having a conversation with somebody and they said to me, you're being so honest with me right now. You're making me feel bad about myself. And it's like, if I didn't care, I wouldn't say anything. And that happens, you know, no matter, because we all go through struggles, whether it's addiction or marriage or loneliness or suicidal thoughts. We all have challenges. But to be able to talk about them, and to be able to talk about them openly and honestly, is how you dig into what ultimately makes you happy, and ultimately you got to be happy with yourself. So
yeah, and that's what we're trying to do here, among other things. And last thing I'll say is, there's not going to be, I mean, I shouldn't say that. There's going to be some people that watch this that say, hey, maybe I'm going to live abroad and I'm going to be like Matt. But at the very least, I recommend to everyone to go out and travel. You really learn, it gives you a different perspective on life. Matt, I alluded to it a little earlier. Matt alluded to it as well. I think we live in a bubble here in the US where poverty in other countries, poverty here is not poverty in other countries. Like I first got told this when I worked in New York. It was a 50-person office, and I would say 40 people in the office weren't citizens. They were there from different countries. And one of my friends in that particular job was named Gilu. He's from Nepal, and he said, "Yeah, bro, people in the U.S. are living in a bubble." He's like, "You want to see real poverty? Like go to these other countries." So I'm not saying focus on the negative and go there and look at poverty and you're going to sit there and feel better about yourself, but go travel, go take some risks. If maybe you want to visit Thailand or you want to visit some other countries, go visit it first, right? That's the best way, because I might have what I thought about Thailand. Matt's lived there a couple of years, but you're going to have a completely different perspective by going there. So save up. Really, the biggest thing, especially when you go to Asia, is the flight is the most expensive thing. But if you really book it out ahead of time, you could find a round trip. Like I think we paid maybe $850 or whatever, which isn't too bad. But once you get over there, it is super cheap to live. The rideshare apps are cheap, food's cheap. So go travel and see if this is maybe something for you. And if not, even if you don't end up moving to these places, you're going to be a lot more refreshed when you come back to the States.
Oh, yeah. Well, and somebody asked in our Bali group last night, they said, how much cash should we bring? And here I was thinking, well, I'm probably going to bring at least $2-3 grand, even though I know there's pickpocketing and all that other shit. They said, oh, about $200 will be enough for just about everything you need for the week. I was like, holy balls.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to it for sure. So if you guys do want to be a guest on our podcast, if you guys are listening and you want to be a guest on our podcast, or if you have a subject you would like us to talk about, please email us down below. We have the email attached here on screen. And I think that's about it. Wayne, would you like to close us out here, good sir?
Yeah, again, appreciate everyone watching. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Tell people about our podcast. I mean, this is something we started as a way to help everyone, but in particular guys out. And as Josh just mentioned, if there's something that you want to hear us address, let us know and we'll be happy to talk about it. And I think that's pretty much it.
Appreciate all of you guys. Peace.
Take care.